just for the moment, revel in the absolute, the beauty that was the meltdown of the neocon and the Zionist establishment in America, where Miriam Adelson comes out and she's like, "You've destroyed your legacy. You could have been the best American president ever," hinting that he could have been Israel first. Meanwhile, the people are all cheering. They're like, finally, let's get rid of this massive liability that is Israel.
Doesn't sound like Tehran wants to go back to having that as a free and open waterway. They want to take a cut, basically.
There was only one reporter to Arab News that said 2 water tanks were attacked.
Yeah.
I doubt the U.S. would have attacked us. Like, come on, that doesn't make some things that make strategic sense.
I wouldn't have believed we would have willingly double tapped a school of girls. So at this point,
the best approach, given everything that's happened, perhaps the only approach to take apart Iran now is to do it like they did Syria, over time, step by step. So you have this slow burning conflict that starts and stops, and you have all of this stuff going on.
He has demonstrated to the American people that he indeed is a man of courage. If you don't think it takes a great deal of courage for a president of the United States to stand up and say, "Whoops, I'm stopping. This has not worked. We're doing something else." Now, that may not sound like an apology to you, but let me tell you something. That's an apology.
Many of us saw a change after Butler. President Trump was almost assassinated in front of the world on live television. And I think something about Butler, there's something there. The president himself shut down the entire investigation. The political system, the government, and the powers and the bureaucracies that be were changed a long time ago. And that started with the assassination of John F. Kennedy and then his brother, Bobby Kennedy.
You could see why they had to get rid of her. she was dropping some truth bombs. It's interesting, man. It's like I frequently say it. I almost get the impression like we're watching a script. Like last week there, you had Trump finally say some disparaging things regarding Israel and their approach to this. Like, you don't have to bomb an apartment building because there's a guy in there you think is, And JD Vance actually did an interview with mainstream media and made some remarks like, we're your only ally left and you can't make demands of us and stuff. And that's unprecedented for an administration to publicly criticize Israel. But I mean, then look what happened. Like this MOU seemingly gets sabotaged and we're back to the drawing board, so to speak.
Yeah, it's one of those things that we'll have to revisit this with the benefit of hindsight. But as it stands, there's kind of like two different thoughts on this. One is that finally Donald Trump is, the pendulum is swinging back to the whole populist America first wing, and they're taking power back from the neocons. The other view is no, this is theater. This is like the Minsk agreement all over again. The MOU is just to buy time, and eventually they're going to overthrow Iran. Either they'll do it the neoconservative way by going in with bombs blasting, or they'll do it the financial way where they, which seems kind of what we'll get into the MOU. But they're like, why don't we just integrate Iran into the global economy?
Yeah, it's like we were talking before the broadcast. It's like a pressure release strategy. Not merely with Iran, because that's what it is doing. There's big strikes, and then they're going to negotiate. And you have to remember, we struck them initially while we were in peace negotiations, which started it off on bad standing. But we're seeing the same pressure release thing happening with the American electorate. It's like they're watching it, and it's like, oh, Trump's going all the way. No, he's coming back our way now. And now it's like you got Ben Shapiro and Mark Levin and all of these people screaming, and Trump's the bad guy. And then you have like Alex Jones and them are embracing him again. And it's just like, now it's already flipped back again. It's just so convoluted. It's becoming ridiculous, really.
So, I mean, I'll concede. I have no idea what's going on. We make one prediction, and then a few weeks later, we make a completely opposite prediction. but just for the moment, revel in the absolute, the beauty that was the meltdown of the neocon and the Zionist establishment in America, where Miriam Adelson comes out and she's like, "You've destroyed your legacy. You could have been the best American president ever," hinting that he could have been Israel first. Meanwhile, the people are all cheering. They're like, finally, like, let's get rid of this massive liability that is Israel. And maybe just get out of this forever war model, because if for nothing else, it's not profitable anymore.
Yeah, it's only bringing misery. It's one of the major things fueling a lot of the mass migration as well. But yeah, all of these people, it was excellent watching them have their little mini meltdowns, but now they're celebrating again. That's what I mean. It already swang back. We didn't even have a chance to embrace it. You and I didn't even get a chance to really talk about it because it happened on our days off. So that's how quick it's swinging back and forth. And you're right, man. And it's a really good point. Like, it's impossible to know exactly what's occurring right now. You can't even have a coherent framing because it's moving so fast. And I think some of the more sincere, genuine analysts in this space are admitting that. And then you have to question anyone who's not, anyone who's just kind of putting out this certitude, this unshakable certitude that they know and their specific take is the way. Like, I would be less hesitant to believing them personally.
I reached out to Tom Luongo. I just DM'd him. I've had him on my show a couple of times, and I asked him, I'm like, do you think this is is this the neocons getting their way and destroying the Middle East, or is this like, are they trying to get Trump trapped in the Middle East? And he gave me a very he's much smarter than I am, and he said this is about triangulation. And Simon Dixon has also said this, like, they're trying to get the moderates in Iran and the moderates in Israel in, and the extremists out or murdered, to realign the Middle East and detach. And there is an element in that. I think the U.S., for this multipolarity, in order for that to happen, they have to take a step back, let Iran take a toll, tell Israel, listen, buddy, you're on your own. Good luck and Godspeed. But I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I heard Susan Kakinda in something I watched of her recently, and she was saying they're removing the proxies. They're removing all these proxies because they want to actually be able to have negotiations with the people, and they want these people to be in charge of these countries. I'd like to see, I know, like, everything's qualified with Promethean Action Group as 30 years of research. I've been looking at this thing for 30 years, but I would like that to be substantiated. Like, how specifically, what is it that indicates that to you? Can you paint a clearer picture for me, is what I would ask her. And no one really pushes back against them. Like, I watched Alex Craner and her. It was actually something you had sent me, and I'm just blown away at the contrast. Like, one is seemingly, and it goes back to what I was just alluding to, one is seemingly has this unshakable certitude, as if like she's actually in the know. And then the other one is like, I'm puzzled by these moves. I can't, you know what I mean? And in the end, he has to admit, like, it's impossible to tell right now. But it's very telling with these people. It just seems like they're disinformation ops or something. Or, man, it could be something as innocuous as their audience captured. They're actually getting a lot of views now, and they're not going to alienate their audiences. Like, there's a lot of that incentive in this space as well.
It also doesn't help that the Trump administration, they're not releasing any information. Like, what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania, for example. Why the hell did we go into Venezuela? What's going on with Maduro? But they're not giving any information out. So we're forced to speculate. Trump must be under duress. They must be blackmailing him. They're going to use lawfare against him. He's pandering to his donor base. But like, this is not Donald Trump in 2016, where he directly talked to the American people through his press releases, and you had some idea of where he was going, and he didn't really lie to anybody. Whereas now, like, he comes out, he says, we're going to destroy Iran's civilization. The next day, all is well, everything's fine. We signed an agreement. The agreement's off. We signed another one. We're never going to sign another agreement.
I think it was 40 times now that he's declared the war is over and he has won and declared victory, and then it was back on 40 times. That's no exaggeration. I legitimately believe that's the number. It was interesting what MTG said about the Butler, Pennsylvania shooting being where it started to turn around. And that actually coincided with a large donation from Miriam Adelson. And a lot of people, like people that I view as intelligence assets for one side or another, like Nick Fuentes, came out right there. He's got a big following. And he comes out and says, I'm not voting for Trump. Trump's bought. Trump's going to go. He actually predicted Iran, which is mind-blowing in retrospect, looking now like he was spot on. He said, Miriam, he did this right after Butler, Pennsylvania. He said, Miriam Adelson made a huge donation. He's owned by the machine. And he said, we will go to war with Iran under this administration. He's just another. And I was blown away by that. And it's again, I don't think it was a prediction. I don't think he's a legitimate actor. I don't believe any of these people high up are. I just think they're feeding us different scripts, different narratives. I don't know if the whole intention is to keep the legitimate people on their toes and not knowing what to think. We're just being overwhelmed with all these different narratives and hypotheses.
Yeah, Butler, Pennsylvania, that this is something I also saw. Up until Butler, he was slamming the FBI, saying they're crooked, we got to split them up, we got to get them out of DC. And then right after Butler, that all just stopped immediately. And then the other sort of inflection point or major turning point was, the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And after that, he seems to be isolated now. Like he's alienated Marjorie Taylor Greene, Tucker Carlson, Alex Jones. These are people that got him elected. And instead, he's drifting more towards who's that guy on Fox News and never stops screaming?
Mark Levin.
Yeah, Mark Levin and Sean Hannity. And it just seems like a transformation. And then now you're seeing people like Robert Barnes. They're spreading rumors. They're suggesting that he's got cognitive decline, but I don't see it. I definitely don't see any evidence of it.
I mean, again, for him to have cognitive decline and for that to be relevant, I mean, how would you explain Biden? Like my premise being like, there's people that make these decisions. Trump is mostly a spokesperson. Maybe prior to Butler, Pennsylvania, maybe he really was coming in to make some changes. And perhaps that's when he would sit down and said, like, look, man, we skimmed your ear. We'll kill your whole family. This is how this works. You know what I mean? Maybe he was explained in no uncertain terms. You're going to shut down the investigation on this, and here's what we're going to do. Here's the agenda. Look at how, like, all of the other people, look at Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. They all of a sudden turn around on a dime. They built their careers in the independent media being like Epstein truthers. We want the Epstein files. Keep pushing on this. This shows the roots of some of the rot in our institutions. Like, and then they turn around and they look like they were just, tortured. And they're like, yeah, no, forget about the Epstein files. Their eyes are all like abnormally wild. And it's like, man, there's something going on. It's like I said, man, there was a time not even long ago, a few years ago, where by suggesting that there actually was